Now exposing unsafe gun owners. There's now an app for that. So as you can imagine, the new gun geo-marker is already causing an uproar. So this is basically what it allows you to do. A user can go on and tag the house of a gun owner that you think is reckless, and then share that information with the rest of the planet. All right, this raises the question of whether the app is a safety precaution or an invasion of privacy. Out front tonight, Stephanie Miller, Rayhan Salam, and Dean Obadallah. Okay, great to have you with us. So, Stephanie, let me just explain again. The way the app works, you can tag a home and then add a comment. So one, for example, that we saw with a home tagged says, new owner leaves gun unlocked around kids. And then you can go and see a map of that house, which we're not obviously going to show our viewers. But the developer of the app released a statement saying this is a gun safety app with which parents and community members can alert each other to dangerous conditions in their neighborhoods. Okay. So I know people are critical of this, but why shouldn't people in the community be warned if someone wants to say a new gun owner is leaving a gun unlocked around the kids?
Well, you know, Aaron, I'm a liberal gun grabber from way back. I am so gun control, you don't even want to know. But this just seems, you know, counterproductive. It seems like an obvious invasion of privacy and so dangerous and ripe for abuse. Listen, I have a bunch of exes, Aaron, I would love to tag just for the hell of it for this. And I think a lot of people would do that. And also, I think other people pointed out would tell, you know, people that want to steal guns where they are. I mean, I think it's different when law enforcement says this is where, you know, say child molesters live. And when a person just goes, oh, I suspect this person of child abuse, this is where they live. I mean, you know, I think that gets very subjective as to whether a gun owner is irresponsible or not.
And it's an interesting point she raises, Dean, because the comments and the ratings on this Google App Store are overwhelmingly negative. You know, people agree with Stephanie, right? They're saying this is dangerous and invasive, irresponsible. It could lead to break-ins. But, you know, is it really dangerous? I mean, I also can see the possibility for people just wanting to say nasty things about other people, which generally happens online, right?
Exactly, all the time.
I mean, it skews negative because there's an anonymity. I don't have to say who I am before I say you're doing something terrible with your gun.
Sure, and first of all, this app looks exciting to me. It looks like better than Angry Birds or Sudoku. I wish I could do that, go around the neighborhood and put down people who are acting out like Rambo with their guns. But let's be honest for a second. When you buy a gun, there's a background check that time only. After that, you can develop mental illness, and why wouldn't you want your neighbors to know, people in your community to know that someone might be doing something dangerous or reckless? It can save your family's lives or your neighbor's lives. I think it's fine, and the person could fight
back.
You think it's fine? I don't think it's invasion of privacy. I think it could be life-saving.
Life-saving. All right, Ryan, let me ask you about this, because, you know, we're all talking about George Zimmerman, and people are talking about whether he was an overzealous neighborhood watchman. Could this app have other unintended consequences? You have other people all of a sudden saying, you know, they're going to be an armed watchman, go out there, take the law in their own hands, and say, well, you know what, I don't think you should have this gun. I think you're doing this around your kids. I'm going to take it into my own hands. You could end up with possibly some horrible situations.
It's an interesting thought experiment. I think that would happen if the app ever actually took off. But the thing is, whenever you have any social media product of this kind, it relies on what we call a network effect. For it to be actually good and useful, you've got to have a lot of people using it. You've got to have a lot of people
right now.
Exactly. And you've got to have a lot of people tagging people's houses. So as Stephanie said, the thing is that there's no accountability here. If I just make something up about someone, then, well, you know, I could just do that because there's no way to actually verify whether or not the comments you're making about someone are in fact accurate, if that person really is an unsafe gun owner. And that's why I think the market, I think that regular users are just not going to adopt this. You're not going to have legions of people who are actually going to be using it. So it's never going to be a useful tool. It's also never going to be a particularly scary tool as a result. It's basically a publicity stunt.
It's interesting. You know, we used to worry about 1984. Now we need to worry about the government, about our neighbors, not the government. We can tag each other or anything.
See something, say something. I mean, Aaron, that's part of it. Like, we're together and fighting against people. And, you know, call the police. Just don't tweet about it. Just don't put a thing on your app. Call the police if you think someone's being reckless.
All right. Thanks, as always, to all three.